Have you ever found yourself at a roadblock with Dungeons and Dragons? Maybe you've thought about becoming a dungeon master or a game master, and you're not really sure what that entails. Or maybe even you've thought about what class may be the strongest and why they are the strongest.
And maybe you've played every class of Dungeons and Dragons, but you haven't played every subclass and you've overlooked some. Or maybe that new interesting character that you've daydreamed about for weeks isn't as fun to play in-game. Here at Theoretical Insights of D&D, me and Rob are going to be discussing some insights and theories of Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get ready
And roll for insight.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Jeremiah. We're going to be talking about the arcane class known as the Wizard, and not to be confused with the Blizzard nor a Lizard. However, you can combine them to create a Chiromancer Lizard Folk Wizard. Name him the Blizzard Lizard Wizard.
That is genius.
It gets better. He has a gizzard.
No. For those people that haven't played D&D, like realistically, when you hear Dungeons and Dragons, what's one of the first things outside of Dungeons and Dragons that come into your mind?
Wizards. Magic.
Wizards and magic. Oftentimes, when I bring up Dungeons and Dragons to somebody who has never played or even has played a couple of times, they automatically think of wizards. Not so much the class, but just wizards in general. Now, for any of those Harry Potter fans, Lord of the Rings fans, or anything like that, the wizard class is something that you could really go in and multi-class or build into your own, to where if you wanted to recreate a character from Harry Potter, you could easily. You could recreate Gandalf in Dungeons and Dragons pretty easily. You have a lot of freedom within the class, and that's what I wanted to get into today. Is just a general breakdown and the different schools of magic that are available to the wizard from level 1, and we'll go all the way up to what they get up into level 20, even though most games don't last that long.
Oh, yeah. Wizards are iconic no matter where you go. I mean, magic and the supernatural has been in, even real-world history for thousands of years.
Yes, I mean, just think of King Arthur and Merlin with the sword and stone.
Yeah. Wizard is one of those terms that magic users, there's different groups of them, or different types in Dungeons & Dragons, and Wizard is probably the most iconic.
Yeah, and it is because I believe that, as we're about to find out, specifically going through the schools, they can master magic, unlike the others.
Yeah. Now, what's iconic about them as well is that they are the glass cannon.
Yes.
And if you're unsure of what that terminology is, the glass cannon is someone who can output ridiculous amounts of damage, but cannot take ridiculous amounts of damage.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why that the wizard is the iconic glass cannon is because it has a 1d6 hit dice. And because of that, it really does limit how much HP you can have, even in higher levels. It's not uncommon to reach mid-tier play and still only have, maybe 40.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the wizard is that's going to be the first thing you kind of want to take into account is what kind of health pool does the rest of the party have? If you talk to your other players, see what they're going to be building. Do we have somebody that's got at least, say, by 10 health or 10th level, do they have at least, say, 65 health? Because at 10th level, even if you would have to max all of your hit dice and have a Constitution modifier to have 60 hit points with the wizard.
Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate circumstance, but the wizard gets a lot of stuff to keep from getting hit.
Yeah. Such as spells.
And that's pretty much it.
Spellcasting is a huge part of the wizard class. The thing is, with the wizard, we covered the fighter and how you can customize it because they get ability score improvements very often. And they get all these subclass features very regularly. The wizard does not have as many.
No, they don't go. Their subclasses aren't so much specifically the schools in which we're covering today. They don't give a whole lot of added benefits outside of being able to slowly master that school of magic. But how many is it that the fighter had in ability score improvements? Was it 5?
I think so.
The wizard does too.
Yeah, so they do have that customized option, that customizability through feats or ability score improvements. But also the wizard's customization and where you can really fine tune how you want your wizard to be comes with their spells.
Yes.
Because the wizard spell list, if I'm not mistaken, is the largest, if not one of the largest spell lists in the Dungeons and Dragons books.
Yes, and the thing about the wizard class is if you build it to be specifically one thing, it is going to be the best at that one thing.
Yeah, you can fine tune it to a T with your spells, even with the subclass, because the school subclasses are going to really make you better at a certain school of magic. And schools of magic, by the way, you've got different types of magic, pretty much is what it is. Some magic is mainly like harnessing the arcane energies to deal damage to something. There's which is evocation. Abjuration is protection magic.
Yeah,
Necromancy is, raising
Ooga
the
booga
dead.
stuff. There's illusion to where you can maybe trick your foes, make them think something, maybe make a noise off in the distance.
Yeah, and we're going to cover what the schools are really about when we get to each of the subclass.
Now, something interesting about the wizard that I didn't really realize that they had, I always thought that you got your spell slots back after a long rest, which happens with everything. But they also have something called arcane recovery.
Yes.
So you have learned to regain some of your magical energy by studying your spell book. Once per day, when you finish a short rest, you can choose expended spell slots to recover. The spell slots can have a combined level that is equal to less than half your wizard level, rounded up. And none of the spell slots can be 6th level or higher. So pretty much what it's saying is you're an 8th level wizard. You finish a short rest, and you can regain any number of spell slots that will add up to 4. So you could regain a 4th level if you have that available, which at 8th level I do not believe so. You could regain a 3rd and a 1st, 2 second level spell slots, or 4 first levels. It's just that's where the mathematician really helps out if you're good with math.
Also, 8th level wizard does have 4th level spells.
It does, so you would be able to get that 4th level spell slot back.
Yeah, after you expend it. And I like the rounded up part because it's usually rounded down in most other circumstances where you have to round something in Dungeons & Dragons.
Now, the wizard class in and of itself has something special compared to the rest of the classes because a lot of classes like the paladin and the cleric, they're similar in that they have a holy symbol. The bard, the sorcerer, and the warlock can all have a arcane focus, and so can the wizard. But the wizard's the only one carrying around a spell book because they are the only one that doesn't get their magic innately.
Yeah.
So at first level, you have a spell book containing 6 first level wizard spells of your choice. Your spell book is the repository of the wizard spells you know, except your cantrips, which are fixed in your mind. Now, wizards, their saving throws that they're proficient in are intelligence and wisdom. Wizards were meant to be the smartest and sharpest creature in the party or on the plane of existence. Some of the most powerful enemies that you can fight, if they're a wizard, they're probably going to be higher in the hierarchy of the government or some kind of world order that you have going on. They have a lot of resources. They know how to talk. They know how to persuade. They know how to manipulate things around. They're extremely well educated. And we all know how dangerous a character can become if they're played well with that education and can begin to kind of morph everything around them and shape it to what they want to be.
Also, I like, we haven't gotten to the subclasses yet, but there's the main subclasses from the Player's Handbook are called schools. I really just like to imagine a wizard who's just a chill college professor.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's like the smartest one in like, astrophysics or whatever, and he's just really chill.
Yeah, and that I think that's something that we need to go over is the way to add spells into the spell book.
Now, wizards are cool in their spell casting, how their spell casting works with the spell book. Because, sorcerers, warlocks, and bards, you get to pick the spells that they learn based off levels and when you level up. Clerics and druid, you can switch spells out from their entire spell list on the long rest. And that's pretty useful. Wizards, however, with their spell book, they can copy scrolls or other spell books into their spell book.
And that's extremely useful because when it gets down into it, the spells that you add to your spell book as you gain levels reflect the arcane research you conduct on your own, as well as intellectual breakthroughs that you have had about the nature of the multiverse. The spell book doesn't contain cantrips. You could discover a spell recorded on a scroll in an evil wizard's chest or a dusty tome in an ancient library, anything that goes along with that.
Now, every time they level up, they get to add 2 wizard spells of their choice to their spell book for free.
Yes, and each, when you're adding a spell into the wizard book, the way that works is for each level of the spell, the process takes 2 hours, and it costs 50 gold pieces. So it's pretty much that gold is being consumed by the magical force to transfer that into the book. And the cost represents material components that you expend as you experiment with the spell to master it.
So wait, are you telling me that's why my college textbooks are so expensive?
I have a feeling it's probably because of colleges being so greedy, but we'll go with that.
I like the idea that there's arcane knowledge locked inside.
Now, a wizard spell on a spell scroll can be copied, just as spells in spell books can be copied. Except when you copy a spell from a scroll, you have to succeed an intelligence or arcana check with a DC that is equal to 10 plus the spell's level. If it succeeds, the spell is successfully copied. Whether the check succeeds or fails, the spell scroll is destroyed. So There's a little bit of playing with fire with that.
Now, here's the thing, though. If that spell book gets destroyed as a wizard, whatever spells you have prepared from it, you're stuck with those until you get a new spell book.
Yeah.
And that is, for our DMs out there, if you got a wizard who is just, his spell book is, it can do anything pretty much. He's got ways to just thwart any enemy, and you want to challenge the party, destroy the spell book.
Yep.
Hit him where it hurts.
And that's not to be it doesn't mean you're being a bad DM. It means you're giving that character an option to grow, to discover new things. It's like, hey, you know what? I forgot what all spells I had in there. Why don't I add this instead?
Yeah. And not only, the thing is, you're not going to take away his spells. You're just taking away his ability to change spells. Because the wizard will prepare a certain amount of spells from a spell book that he will use in between long rests.
So at second level is when you get to choose your arcane tradition, and this is where it goes into the, in air quotes, subclasses for the wizard, specifically when we're talking about the schools of magic. So when you reach second level, you can choose an arcane tradition from the list of available traditions shaping your practice of magic, and your choice grants you features at 2nd, 6th, 10th, and 14th level, and that's it. The rest of it's going to be coming from the wizard class itself.
And all that it is really is ability score improvements.
Yeah, you don't get anything from the class outside of ability score improvements and
more spells
and subclass arcane. You get tradition features from your subclasses or the school of magic that you choose until 18th level. At 18th level, you have achieved such mastery over certain spells that you can cast them at will. Choose a first level wizard spell and a second level wizard spell that are at your spell book You can cast those spells at their lowest level without expending a spell slot when you have them prepared. If you want to cast either spell at a higher level, you must expend the spell slot as normal. And by spending 8 hours in study, you can exchange one or both of the spells you chose for different spells at the same levels.
That is an awesome feature that I will probably never get to be able to do because it's high level. But just the ability to cast a leveled spell at will, that's powerful.
It's very powerful because not up until you get into like a green hags, I think have a couple. Night hag, I think has a few. But then it starts getting more relevant and more common when you get up into like the Mind Flayer level of challenge ratings as far as monsters and Dungeons and Dragons go.
Yeah.
Now at 20th level, when you reach it, you gain mastery over 2 powerful spells and can cast them with little effort. Choose 2 third-level spells from the Wizard Spellbook as your signature spell. And this is 3rd level. You could have Fireball or Lightning Bolt, or both. You always have these spells prepared. They don't count against the number of spells you can have prepared, and you can cast each of them once at 3rd level without expending a spell slot. And when you do so, you can't do again until you finish a short or long rest.
Being able to cast a free fireball?
Well, being able to cast a free anything, because by 20th level you have the innate spell casting of the 1st and 2nd level spell. Then you have 2 spell slots at 3rd level to where you can just say, yes, I'm going to cast Fireball. Or yes, I'm going to cast Misty Step. Or Thunder, Lightning Bolt. Or it's absolutely mind-blowing. And that's why I was getting at. It's unfortunate that campaigns usually don't go that long.
Yeah. Now I just want to play a wizard who only knows 1 spell, and that's his signature spell and his spell mastery.
Yeah.
And he just casts it at 9th level, then down to 8th, 7th, 6th, all the way. And that's his one gimmick. He's just got 1 spell.
Yeah. Now, to get into the schools, let's start with the School of Aberration.
Now, Abjuration magic is awesome. It's the protective magic where, you've got Shield, which is a very useful spell. I believe Shield of Faith, which I'm not sure is in the wizard spell list, but one's
It may not be.
Cool. Pretty much any kind of thing that's going to be protecting. So certain buff spells are Abjuration. Anything that's going to be protecting you is going to be under Abjuration. And with all the school subclasses, wizards get the ability that whenever they copy a spell, so when we talk about copying from a scroll to the book or from another spell book to your spell book, the gold and time you have to spend to copy a spell from that school, whatever subclass school you picked, is cut in half.
And that's extremely important, especially if you do get up to those 5th and 6th level spell slots being available to you.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 hours and 50 gold per level. Mm-hmm. So you take that and you're copying a 5th level spell, that's 10 hours worth of writing and transcribing from one page to another, and 250 gold.
Oh, yeah.
And it may not be just 250 gold, it could be 250 gold worth of materials, depending on how the DM wants to run that game.
Yeah. Arcane Ward is another thing that you get right at 2nd level. Basically, whenever you cast a Abjuration spell, the 1st level or higher, you can use the little strands of that magic spell to create a magical ward. So it's basically a shield. And this ward lasts until a long rest. It has a hit point maximum equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. Whenever you take damage, the ward takes the damage instead. If the ward is reduced to 0 hit points, you take the remaining damage if there is any. While it's at 0 hit points, it can't absorb damage, but the magic remains. Whenever you cast another Abjuration spell, the 1st level higher, the ward regains a number of hit points equal to twice the level of that spell.
And that is extremely useful.
That's making that glass cannon a little bit less glassy.
Yeah, it's giving it some more survivability. And the more it just gets better at 6th level when
You can
you
take
can project it to another creature. So starting at 6th level, when a creature that you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to cause your arcane ward to absorb that damage, and it works the same as it does for yourself.
and that's awesome. Now, at 10th level, when you cast an Abjuration spell that requires you to make an ability check as part of the casting, so spells such as Counterspell, which is overpowered or very useful, and Dispel Magic spell, you add your proficiency bonus to that ability check.
And that's extremely useful because sometimes if you need to roll, say, a 15, you can add your proficiency bonus to that 12 that you rolled, and you can still maintain concentration on the spell.
And this is at 10th level, so your proficiency bonus at 10th level is a +4, which is a very... Anytime you can add a plus to a dice roll, it's good.
Especially a +4.
A +4. A +1, pretty good. +2, we're getting somewhere. +3, all right, we're going a little far. +4, out of your mind.
Yeah.
Don't
Now,
even get me started on +5.
Well, speaking of +5, when you get to 14th level, and a lot of campaigns usually hit this level, starting at 14th with School of Abjuration, you have advantage on saving throws against spells. It doesn't say some, it doesn't say a few. You have advantage on saving throws against all spells of every type. Also, you have resistance against the damage of all spells.
So, an Abjuration wizard can be in a wizard battle with a pyromancer,
Yes.
little fire slinger guy.
And if he succeeds on his saves because he has advantage, then he will be taking a quarter damage.
That is ridiculous.
It's really good, and it's something that this class needed.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times when people are playing wizard, they usually probably go evocation for the damage, or enchantment, or even maybe necromancy.
necromancy is iconic.
I think abjuration is probably one of those schools that gets overlooked, but to keep in mind, you don't have to stick to those spells from your specific school.
Yeah.
You can have spells from outside of your school.
This Abjuration wizard could be a necromancer.
Yes.
Now, he may not be as good as a School of Necromancy wizard, but he can still be a necromancer.
Yeah, and the School of Abjuration can still just as effectively cast Fireball and Lightning Bolt as the evocation.
It's still 8d6 damage.
Yeah, it's just this one has the added benefits. The School of Abjuration has taught him special abilities that the other schools won't give him.
Let's go ahead and go to the School of Conjuration. And Conjuration magic is basically summoning things from other planes. And for a while there, I felt that Conjuration, like conjuring spells in D&D 5e, was kind of lacking. But
Yeah.
here recently, they released some good ones that are very impressive. So with School of Conjuration, when you take it, you get your golden time you have to spend to copy a spell is halved. But you also get Minor Conjuration, where you can use your action to conjure up an inanimate object in your hand or on the ground in an unoccupied space that you can see within 10 feet of you. It can't be larger than 3 feet on any side and weigh no more than 10 pounds, and its form must be that of a non-magical object that you have seen. This object is visibly magical, radiating a dim light out to 5 feet.
And this is useful specifically if you have the spell Catapult.
Oh, yeah.
You can give yourself ammunition for
Mhm.
Catapult. Not only that, but it's also radiating the dim light. If it's extremely dark and you don't have dark vision, you can see that little bit in front of you to where you don't run into a wall. It doesn't sound that useful overall, but when you get down to the technicalities, it can be extremely useful if you use it correctly.
Well, Prestidigitation is a magic spell that doesn't seem quite useful. But how many times have I made a lot of gold off of Prestidigitation in your game?
At least 3 times you've made a minimum of 25 or 30 gold.
Yeah, there was one time I made up in the hundreds.
Yes.
I gave a whole town food poisoning, but that's a story for another time.
Forget about it.
Now, at 6th level, though, you can use your action to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. Or you can choose a space within range that's occupied by a smaller medium creature. If that creature is willing, you both teleport, swapping places. You have to, once you use it, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest.
And that's extremely useful.
Oh, sorry, just a long rest.
That's extremely useful if you go into, say, one of these ancient crypts or anything like that, or an old library or whatever it's at. And you're wanting the wizard to be up front because you know it's going to be full of runes. There's going to be cryptic writing on the walls to where maybe they can cast comprehend languages, or maybe they have the understanding for it overall already. Something pops out that the wizard doesn't want to be beside. He can look back at the beginning of combat and say, hey, barbarian, fighter, cleric, paladin, whatever, let's swap places. Let's get you up here and protect me. You do your job, and I'll protect you with my stuff. And then they just swap places.
Mobility, as we've said before, is very useful in combat.
Especially
Also,
something that doesn't require any actual movement.
Oh yeah, I need to correct myself again. You can reuse the feature on a long rest or when you cast a level conjuration spell.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, at 10th level, while you are concentrating on a conjuration spell, your concentration cannot be broken by damage.
So pretty much you summon Greater Demon. The demon that you've summoned is over there wrecking everything in its path. You take 45 damage, you're nearly knocked down because of it, and you don't even have to make a concentration check because it does not break.
From damage, that's awesome.
And what gets better is this is where it gets a little crazy coming into the summons. Durable summons at 14th level, any creature that you summon or create with a conjuration spell has 30 temporary hit points. That's the same as a 5th level wizard on average.
This is going to open up This is going to open up your strategic thinking on your summons, because a lot of the summoning spells, they will give you options. It'll be like 4 CRs, quarters, or 1 CR1 or something like that.
Yeah.
You can basically summon 1 big thing, 2 medium things, or like 4 small things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do the math, you can have 1 big thing with 30 temporary hit points, or you could have 4 small things, and they
each have 30 temporary hit points, because it does not say that you have to spread them out evenly.
Yeah, that gives your team, your allies, your party 120 more hit points to add to their collective hit point pool. And
when you're facing something like an ancient red dragon or a lich or anything like that, maybe even a demogorgon that may have some AoE effects, it's extremely useful.
Well, it's good. When it's scattered out like that, they're going to be taking more damage. Those hit points are going to be dialed down more because it's hitting it at multiple sources. So if you're facing a guy who's got like a singular attack, no AoEs, it may be better to have those 4 small things with that more hit points. But if you got a lot of area effects, just get the big thing with 30 hit points, because
the big thing's already going to have more health to begin with.
Yeah.
Most, I think, that you can summon with Summon Greater Demon are going to be somewhere along the lines of like 80 to 90 health.
Yeah.
Pop another 30 right on top of it.
Yeah. If you're 4 little guys with 30 extra hit points all get fireballed, well, they're all taking damage, and that 120 hit points is being decreased 4 times.
Mm.
So if you're a little bit of a power gamer, think about your strats. Next,
School of Divination.
This is powerful. Again, 2nd level, golden time is cut in half. Portent is the next 2nd level ability.
Yeah, starting at 2nd level, when you choose this school, glimpses of your future begin to press in on your awareness. When you finish a long rest, roll 2 d20s and record the numbers that you rolled. You can replace any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check made by you or a creature that you can see with one of these foretelling rolls. You must choose to do so before the roll, and you can replace a roll in this way only once per turn. Each foretelling roll can only be used once. When you finish a long rest, you lose any unused foretelling rolls.
Being able to change the dice and know what number is going to come out is very useful. That's rigging the game in your favor.
And that's, more importantly, going back into these big, bad enemies that you may be facing, like the Ancient Red Dragon that probably has a plus 16 to hit. You can give it, before it does its tail attack, say, you know what, use this natural 1 instead.
Now, if you're doing that and you're facing a legendary monster, keep in mind, they got like legendary resistance.
Yeah.
They can just choose to succeed the roll.
Yeah. Now, that's something that you want to try and wait for them to run out of their resistances. But even something like a Mind Flayer for his attacks, maybe an adult dragon that doesn't have the legendary resistances to nat 1 or give it that low roll on its tail attack, bite attack, whatever.
Or,
Help somebody succeed the fire breath weapon.
Give your rogue that nat 20 that you rolled in the morning and watch him play Yahtzee.
Yeah. Now, at 6th level, you get the ability, when your casting divination spells come so easily to you that it expends only a fraction of your spell casting efforts. When you cast a divination spell 2nd level or higher using a spell slot, you regain 1 expended spell slot. The spell slot regained must be of a lower level than the spell you cast and can't be higher than 5th level. So what that means is there is a 2nd level divination spell called Mind Spike. You reach into the mind of your creature that you can see within range. The target must make a wisdom save or take 3d8 psychic damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. So, the way you can work that is because it's anything up to a 5th level. Say you have 3rd level spell slots, you have 3 2nd levels. You cast your 3 at 2nd level. You then cast the 2 at 3rd level, regain 2 2nd level spell slots, and then cast it 2 more times. That's 7 casts of Mind Spike, and overall, right at 8d8 for the 3rd level casting, and 15 for the casting at 2nd level. That's 23d8 over the course of 7 turns.
Yeah, and that is a ridiculous amount of damage.
And it doesn't have to be Mind Spike.
No. It does have to be a divination spell. Now, at 10th level, this is pretty good. At 10th level, you can use your action to increase your powers of perception. When you do so, choose one of the following benefits, which last until you're incapacitated or take a short or long rest. You can't use this feature again until you finish a rest. You can either have dark vision up to a range of 60 feet, or ethereal sight within where you can see into the ethereal plane within 60 feet of you, greater comprehension, where you can read any language, or you can see invisibility, so invisible creatures and objects within 10 feet of you are no longer invisible.
And that's extremely useful because it says you can't use the feature again until you finish a rest. It doesn't say just a long rest.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to be able to take multiple short rests in the day, as a divination wizard, do it.
Yeah. And this is useful, too, because it doesn't end. The effects don't end until you are incapacitated or take a short or long rest.
Yes. Now, at 14th level, you get your greater portent. So the visions in your dreams intensify and paint a more accurate picture in your mind of what is to come. Instead of rolling just 2 d20s at the start of your day, you now roll 3. And it's kind of crazy because throughout a day or a single fight, specifically one of those in-game fights, if you're 14th level or higher, being able to change 3 of the roles within that fight, along with however the rest of the party is built, is extremely powerful.
It's honestly insane. Being able to, one of the beautiful things about D&D is the probability aspect of the dice.
Yeah.
It can either do you really good or do you really bad, but it affects everyone equally.
Until the divination wizard shows up and gives some kind of control over that.
Not some kind of control, an absolute control.
Yeah.
And especially if you got a power gamer who's memorized the abilities of the creature they're facing, then they can know right away. It's well, I've got a 12 right here, and if I give it to this bandit captain, he's got a +5 or something, that's going to be a hit on an attack. But if I give it to just one of the bandits, they got a +3, that's not going to.
It's not going to hit. Now, going from the School of Divination to the School of Enchantment, of course, and it's the same with every school, any spell that has to do with the school that you're specializing in, half the time to copy, half the gold, or half the components is used.
An enchantment school is not like enchanting weapons or items. It's enchanting the mind.
Yeah. So, starting at 2nd level, you get something called Hypnotic Gaze. This is when you choose this school, your soft words and enchanting gaze can magically enthrall another creature. As an action, choose one creature that you can see within 5 feet of you. If the target can see or hear you, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your wizard spell save DC, or be charmed by you until the end of your next turn. The charmed creature's speed drops to 0, and the creature is incapacitated and visibly dazed.
That's 3 conditions in one.
Well, it doesn't end there. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to maintain this effect, extending its duration until the end of your next turn. However, the effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, if the creature can neither see nor hear you, or if the creature takes damage. Once the effect ends, or if the creature succeeds on its initial saving throw against the effect, you can't use this feature on that creature again until you finish a long rest. Now, that's something to where if you take, say, Misty Step, and you see this bandit captain over in the distance, and you're like, okay, well, I've got a pretty decent DC save. I don't think he's very good on his wisdom saves. So let's pop over there with your bonus action, and then you use your action on the Hypnotic Gaze. As long as you stay right there, and you can blink by and get the rest of the party to distract the other bandits, you can keep that bandit captain locked down for the entire fight, if you're lucky.
And, with the bandit captain, it depends on how your DM's running it, but, if you take out the chain of command, those bandits are not going to be as useful.
No, they're not going to be able to fight as effectively, because usually the bandit captain is one that's calling out, saying, hey, you go here, you go here. It devolves into chaos.
Yeah, it could. It depends on how your DM is.
Yeah.
How they run their game. Now, at 6th level, when a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to divert the attack, provided that there's another creature within the attack's range. The attacker must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell DC. On a failed save, the attacker must target the creature that is closest to it, not including you or itself. If multiple creatures are closest, the attacker chooses which one to target. On a successful save, you can't use this feature on the attacker again until you finish a long rest.
And that's really useful coming into, say, you've been flanked. They fail to save. Now, you get to choose where that natural 20 is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you can avoid that damage, and maybe they have their the other enemies that's flanked you, that's just to the left. Say, you know what? You really don't want to hit me, do you? I heard he called you an idiot earlier. And you just redirect that natural 20 at his buddy that he's known for 10 years. That he's now under the impression called him an idiot earlier. Now he hates his guts.
I like to imagine instead of just saying, hey, he called you an idiot earlier, it's more of just I'm too beautiful to hit. Man, it's you know what? You're right. Phil, you ugly. Bam.
Poor Phil.
Poor Phil. Poor Phil.
But starting at 10th level, this is where this class really starts to come on its own, because you don't really get this kind of stuff until you get into like the sorcerer's ability to twin spell, or like the warlock with the Eldritch Blast cantrip having multiple beams that can target multiple creatures.
You do get Scorching Ray, though.
Of course.
But this is...
Starting at 10th level, when you cast an enchantment spell of first level or higher that targets only one creature, you can have it target a second creature. And that's anything like Charm. Maybe, let me see if it is a enchantment. Hold Person. Hold Monster. The stuff that can completely lock down a creature that you're looking at on the battlefield. And like, I really don't want that guy to move around a whole lot. But that guy seems to be a bit of a problem too. You could lock down both of them if they fail their saves.
Yeah. And if you got a divination wizard buddy who's rolled low in the morning, they're going to fail.
Yeah. Now, at 14th level, you gain the ability to make a creature unaware of your magical influence on it. And this is where the mind game starts to come in. When you cast an enchantment spell on to charm one or more creatures, you can alter one's creature's understanding so that it remains unaware of being charmed. Additionally, once before the spell expires, you can use your action to try to make the chosen creature forget some of the time it spent charmed. The creature must succeed on an intelligence saving throw against your wizard spell DC or lose a number of hours of its memories equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier, which is a minimum of 1. You can make the creature forget less time, and the amount of time can't exceed the duration of your enchantment spell.
That's useful because usually charm spells, at the end of the spell, the victim of it is going to know that they were charmed.
Yeah.
And that's going to eventually cause some hostilities later down the line. But this kind of just cuts that out and be like, no, you don't remember that you were charmed.
Now this, it could be kind of hard to get it to be useful in the actual game, as far as maybe one of the town leaders. You kind of have to be careful with that. But what it could be really fun with is the roleplay aspect.
Oh, yeah.
You and your group of friends, you charm one of the guys that doesn't have a very good intelligence or a very good wisdom, and you have him embarrass himself, the character. He embarrasses himself for 3 hours straight. And then you just have him forget it. And it is the option and the chance to just sit around the table and laugh together.
That's always fun.
And you won't have to worry about the character being mad at you because they will have forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
And I promise that if you know the guys that you're playing with, they'll find it just as funny as you will.
Next school, and this is probably one of the more popular ones, School of Evocation.
This is where the damage comes in.
Yeah. Again, second level, half the gold, half the time to copy an evocation spell into your spell book. But at second level, they also have the ability to cast AoE spells and choose a certain amount of creatures that's equal to 1 plus the spell's level that are not affected by the spell.
And that's extremely useful when you're casting something like Fireball and your fighter and barbarian or fighter and paladin are sitting up there in the front lines.
Yeah. Being able to damage the enemy and not have to worry about friendly fire is always a good thing, because friendly fire can cause some serious problems potentially. Now, Potent Cantrip. Cantrips are those low-level spells where if there's any saving throw involved and the enemy succeeds a saving throw, they take no damage. But at 6th level, when they succeed a saving throw against your cantrips, they take half the cantrip's damage.
And that's stuff like Firebolt, Chill Touch, Freezing Ray, maybe even Acid Splash, Poison Spray.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Being able to still do damage with cantrips no matter what.
At 10th level, though, you can add your intelligence modifier to 1 damage roll of any wizard evocation spell you cast. So, You cast your fireball. It's 8d6. You cast it at 3rd level. Now you can add your intelligence modifier to that as well. So it's 8d6 plus 5.
Nice.
That
Extra
just
5.
sounds nice. It's 8d6 plus 5.
That plus 5, that could kill a man. That could definitely kill a commoner.
Yes. Well, I figured the 8d6 could kill a commoner.
No, he's got fire.
Let's be honest. The plus 5 could kill a commoner.
Plus 5 will kill a commoner, but he's got fire immunity. He's got an affinity chain on.
That's true.
Yeah. Now, at 14th level, you can increase the power of your simpler spells. When you cast a wizard spell of 1st through 5th level that deals damage, you can deal maximum damage with that spell. Now, the first time you do it, you suffer no adverse effect. But if you use this feature again before you finish a long rest, you take 2d12 necrotic damage for each level of the spell immediately after you cast it.
At least it's giving something in return. It's like you're drawing on your own life force,
which is
to max the damage of your magic.
Anytime you can max damage on a fireball,
specifically a 5th level fireball.
Yeah.
Because that's 80 fire damage by 5th level.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's 80 damage like that.
Yeah. And you don't even have to worry about that damage doing to your barbarian because you can sculpt that spell around him.
Yeah. Well, and also it goes into the fact that you may not have to worry about taking that 2d12 necrotic damage if you're doing 80 damage in one turn to the entire enemy.
Yeah, if your enemy force is grouped up, AoEs, baby. Area of effects.
Yep.
Now let's get to the more slippery school and tricky one. School of Illusion. And illusion magic is illusions.
This is the one I have a feeling that is a lot of fun to roleplay.
Yeah. So, again, golden time, half it when you copy a spell to your spellbook. Now, when you choose this subclass at 2nd level, you learn the Minor Illusion cantrip. If you already know this cantrip, you learn a different wizard cantrip of your choice. It doesn't count against your number of cantrips, no. When you cast Minor Illusion, you can create both a sound and an image with a single casting of the spell. Now, with Minor Illusion, it is a cantrip spell, but the illusion that you can cast is limited. Usually with it, you can only cast an image or a sound, which either one can be useful. But
and you can either create a sound or an image, and that's your choices as a regular cantrip. But this is giving you the option to do both simultaneously.
It just makes the illusion a little bit more believable. Because if you conjure up an illusion of, let's say, like a rock or something, for whatever reason, and you drop it and it doesn't make a sound, the illusion's not going to be very believable. But if you're able to make the sound and the image...
Yeah. Specifically for a good image of conjuring up said rock.
Yeah.
Think of Lord of the Rings when Frodo and Samwise hid from the orcs passing by under the cloak. And now, of course, it had that little bit of a green tint. But when you just kind of glance at the screen, it's like, where'd they go?
I'll tell you, though, that doesn't have any effect on Helen Keller.
No, it doesn't. She's too busy looking for water. At 6th level, when you cast an illusion spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can use your action to change the nature of that illusion, using the spell's normal parameters for the illusion, provided that you can see the illusion. That's a lot of illusions.
That is. Now, at 10th level, you can create an illusionary duplicate of yourself as an instant, almost instinctual reaction to danger. When a creature makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to interpose the illusionary duplicate between the attacker and yourself. The attack automatically misses you, then the illusion dissipates. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long or short rest.
And that's crazy, because you hear that natural 20 come at you, and you say, illusory step. They pop in front, the natural 20 hits them.
You
dodged a nat 20.
Being able to automatically like not be hit.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's almost it's technically even better than the shield spell, because the shield spell, yes, gives you a +5 to AC, but you can still get hit. This takes that out entirely. You are not getting hit.
Yeah. Now, illusionary reality, 14th level. This is some impressive stuff, because when you cast an illusion spell of first level or higher, you can choose one inanimate, non-magical object that is part of the illusion and make that object real. You can do this on your turn as a bonus action while the spell is ongoing, and the object remains real for 1 minute. For example, you can create an illusion of a bridge over a chasm, then make it real long enough for your allies to cross.
Or you can make an illusion of maybe a beggar in a city, and you're trying to sneak into another building somewhere, and the guards, the city is unpleasant towards the beggars. You can conjure the illusion of a beggar, then make that beggar real, to where now the guards are going after them and leaving the post of where you're trying to get into.
Well, I don't think a beggar would work because it has to be an object.
Beggars are objects.
No, I don't think that's the right mentality, Rob.
Nah. But what you could do realistically is put up a like some kind of sign and have the illusion of a beggar behind them. Have the sign of the table or whatever, like almost like a lemonade stand or something like that, and that become real. Maybe the guards are thirsty. Maybe they would like some lemonade. It's a hot day in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
And the king's really been hard on them lately. He fussed at them just a couple of hours ago, and they say, screw it. We're going to go get a couple glasses of lemonade.
Maybe, yeah. Now let's get to the School of Necromancy.
This is the one that I was kind of looking forward to. Now, necromancy means you are spooky. The spookiest of spooks. Just like the other schools, to copy a spell from the school is half the time, half the gold. But at second level, you gain something called Grim Harvest. You gain the ability to reap life energy from creatures you kill with your spells. Once per turn, when you kill one or more creatures with a spell of first level or higher, you regain hit points equal to twice the spell's level, or 3 times if the level is or 3 times its level if the spell belongs to the School of Necromancy. You don't gain this benefit for killing constructs or undead, now that I can read English.
Do you need a necromancer to come resurrect your ability to read?
It's probably been dead too long for that to happen.
Now, at 6th level, you get the big things, all right? Because you add Animate Dead to your spell book if it's not already there. And when you cast Animate Dead, not only do you get to summon 1 zombie or 1 skeleton, you can summon 2.
But more specifically, the creature's hit point maximum is increased by an amount equal to your wizard level.
And it adds your proficiency bonus to its weapon damage rolls.
And that's extremely useful because a skeleton may not have much of an additive to the damage rolls. But by 6th level, you're at a proficiency bonus of 2. So you're automatically getting that +2 on his damage rolls. And if I'm wrong, then I'll correct myself.
6th level is +3.
It's getting a +3. It's hard to keep up with the numbers, man.
Yeah.
But at 10th level, you are inured to undeath. You have resistance to necrotic damage, and your hit point maximum can't be reduced. Now, this is the beautiful thing about necrotic damage in Dungeons & Dragons. There are a few spells that will reduce your hit points through damage, and they can't be healed back.
Yeah.
And I think there's at least one in which it reduces it permanently.
I think so.
It may be something special to do with like a lich. But you have spent so much time dealing with undead and the forces that animate them that you have become inured to some of their worst effects.
That's awesome.
That's extremely useful.
Now, at 14th level, you can command undead. When you use your magic to bring undead under your control, even those created by other wizards. As an action, you can choose one undead that you can see within 60 feet of you. That creature must make a charisma saving throw against your wizard spell save DC. If it succeeds, you cannot use this feature again. If it fails, you can't use the feature on it again. If it fails, it becomes friendly to you and obeys your commands until you use this feature again. Intelligent undead are harder to control in this way. If the target has an intelligence of 8 or higher, it has advantage on the saving throw. If it fails the saving throw and has an intelligence of 12 or higher, it can repeat the saving throw at the end of every hour until it succeeds and break free.
This is one of the few classes in which could, depending on how rolls go, could lock down a lich
Yeah.
by making it become friendly for an hour.
It could, potentially.
Yeah, like I said, it all comes down to the rolls, just like everything else in Dungeons and Dragons. But you have the potential as a necromancer in the wizard school to lock down a lich and have him be your buddy for an hour.
And he obeys your commands.
So you get this lich. You have him for an hour. You go find the big bad that you just got into maybe halfway through the campaign. You ran into him and you fought him a little bit. And he's still not quite back up at 100 health. Hey, lich, buddy, old friend of mine. Power word kill. End of campaign right there.
Or if the lich is the big bad evil guy, you got control. Hey, buddy. Kill yourself.
Become deader than already.
Become unalive for me.
You're undead, well, unalive.
Now, we got the last school, which is the school of transmutation. And transmutation is the changing of from one element to another.
And this is extremely useful because this is probably more useful to the power gamers, because by that time they'll know that the Pit Fiend and the Ancient Red Dragon are immune to fire damage. There's stuff that's got resistance to poison and all that stuff, but they can nullify that.
Well, I was saying element as in, like, base element. It's not elemental damage, Rob.
Man, don't play with my emotions like that.
You're thinking of a different wizard subclass. We'll get into that later on another episode.
Everything's running together.
It is.
My eyes have gone crossed.
If we got any divination wizards out there, can you use your portent ability, your high rolls for Rob out here? Or Bard, sing him some inspiration. He needs an additional D6.
It's been a long week.
It has. Anyways, second level. Half the gold, half the time for transmutation spells. Minor alchemy. When you select this school, you can temporarily alter the physical properties of one non-magical object, changing it from one substance into another. You perform a special alchemical procedure on one object composed entirely of wood, stone, but not a gemstone, iron, copper, or silver, transforming it into a different one of these materials that were listed. So you can change the element. And for each 10 minutes you spend performing the procedure, you can transform up to 1 cubic foot of material. After 1 hour, or until you lose your concentration, the material reverts back to its original substance.
More specifically, going up into 6th level with this subclass, you can spend 8 hours creating a transmuter stone that stores transmutation magic. You can benefit from the stone yourself or give it to another creature. A creature gains a benefit of your choice as long as the stone is in the creature's possession. When you create the stone, choose to benefit from one of these following options: dark vision to a range of 60 feet, an increased speed of 10 feet while the creature is unencumbered, proficiency in con saving throws, resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, and your choice whenever you choose to benefit. And each time you cast a transmutation spell of 1st level or higher, you can change the effect of your stone if the stone is on your person.
That is wonderful. Now, I'm pretty sure our seasoned players and DMs out there have heard of the polymorph spell and how devastating it can be. At 10th level, you add the Polymorph spell to your spell book if it's not already there. You can cast Polymorph without expending a spell slot. When you do so, you can target only yourself and transform into a beast whose challenge rating is 1 or lower. Once you cast Polymorph in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest, though you can still cast it normally using an available spell slot.
The thing to keep in mind about polymorphing with like the Druid's Wild Shape is that when you polymorph, it's pretty much getting temporary health.
Yeah.
You're changing into the say dog or whatever, and it's got 15 health. That's 15 temporary health. You can still move around as the dog. You can make bite attacks as the dog, and you still have that 15 temporary hit points because you revert back when you decide to drop the concentration on the spell, or whenever you take the 15 damage and start going back into your own health pool.
Or, if you're trying to get away from a enemy and, you're like locked in a room, but if there's an open ceiling, you can polymorph into a bird.
Yeah.
And fly away.
Now, at 14th level, you can use your action to consume the reserve of transmutation magic stored within your transmuter stone in a single burst. When you do so, choose one of the following effects. Your transmuter stone is destroyed and cannot be remade until you finish a long rest. You can transmute one non-magical object no larger than a 5-foot cube into another non-magical object of similar size and mass and of equal or lesser value. You must spend 10 minutes of handling the object to transform it. You can remove all curses, diseases, and poisons affecting a creature that you touch with the transmuter stone. This creature also regains all its hit points.
Finally, the wizard has some healing.
More specifically, you cast the Raise Dead spell on a creature you touch with the transmuter stone without expending a spell slot or needing to have the spell in your spell book. Now, this is something to where if you wanted to start off as the old guy, somebody like Gandalf or Dumbledore or Merlin, you start off as the old guy, 70-year-old human. By 14th level, you could use this feature. You touch the transmuter stone to a willing creature, and that creature's apparent age is reduced by 3d10 years to a minimum of 13 years. This does not extend the creature's lifespan. So, you want to look young again? Touch your transmuter stone to yourself and take 3d10 years. You could look 40 again.
So that's how Keanu does it.
That's very possible.
I knew he was a wizard.
Same with Jennifer Aniston.
Or any celebrity.
Just about.
That's all the schools of the wizard. In the player's handbook, at least.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind is, I know we're kind of going through things kind of quick with the wizard, but when you look into the player's handbook, there's not really a whole lot there that they gain from the schools other than what we just covered. There's really not a way to go into it more. Wizards are going to be gaining most of their usefulness at the first couple of things they get out of their spell, their subclass. The rest they're going to be getting from their spells.
Yeah, the wizard spells is really where their power shines through.
And that, I think that's what's kind of important because it's different from just about any other class in Dungeons and Dragons, I think.
Yeah.
The sorcerer can be good at just about everything. The warlock could be good at just about everything. The wizard can be useful in all, but greatest in one.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of the fighter, who is a jack of all trades. The wizard is the mastercraft version. By the 20th level, or maybe even 18th, they are the master of that school.
Yeah. Man, reading about all these wizards, it makes me feel smarter.
I'm glad it made you feel smarter. I got a headache over here.
Yeah.
I read illusions 5 times in one sentence.
Well, maybe it was an illusion spell that was being cast on by an invisible wizard. Who knows?
Where am I?
Oh, there went the enchantment wizard.
Either way, we'll catch you on the next episode of Crit Theory.
Yep.